Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, there lived a man. Now, he was an ordinary guy living, well, an ordinary life. In fact, as I look around here, he could have been your father, your brother, your husband, your son. Gentlemen, he could have been any one of you. He had a wife who loved him. Was it a perfect marriage? No, but what is? He had 3 adoring children. He had a thriving profession. Was it his passion? No, but it more than paid the bills. This man had friends, a lot of friends. They didn't go as deep as he wanted, but man, they cared about him. He had a community 3 generations deep. He had a white picket fence. He had a black lab. I mean, how much better does it get than that? This man had it all, which is why what happened next is anything but ordinary. You see, on an ordinary day, like every other of this man's 60 years of life, he had one errand to do that day. All it said in his day planner, I saw it afterwards, was, I think it was said, go to REI or go to a camping store, which is strange because this dude had never set foot in a camping store, but there he was at a local REI, and to the clerk, he must have looked like an ordinary customer buying an ordinary item, which is why what happened next is extraordinarily tragic. He took that item home, and he didn't yet assemble it. He had to write a letter, so he wrote the letter, and he put it next to some beautiful flowers that he had purchased. That dark letter next to those bright blooms, it still sits with me. He took that item that he purchased up to his bedroom with one last journal entry, if you will, a sticky note. All it said was, stop, do not enter, call the police. He then assembled the item. Now, he didn't need any help assembling this item. Why? Because he was a Boy Scout, and he had taught me so many of his scouting tricks and tips along the way, like how to shoot a gun, how to build a fire. But today wasn't about firecraft or marksmanship. Nope. Today was what the Greeks call kompologia, the art of tying knots. And trust me, there are so many knots. We spent hours tying them. He taught me the axle hitch, the capstan, the figure 8, the overhand, each one with a specific purpose. But trust me, this knot was not in any Boy Scout manual. See, today he would tie the hangman's knot. And once you've seen the hangman's knot, it's hard to untie from your mind. He then proceeded to remove his jewelry. I wear his ring. It says, Gam ze ya'avor, which means this too shall pass. If only that were true, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today, because what happened next did not pass, not as he expected. God, I hope not. He took that rope, he threw it over an exposed beam above his bed with one last final to-do item on that day. Kill yourself and leave this world behind. Check. Now, not all deaths by hanging are the same. You see, if you break your neck, it's lights out, game over. But if you don't, asphyxiation can take up to 30 minutes before your brain dies. 30 minutes. And that's why I'm here tonight, because of what happened next. I know you're thinking, how much worse can it get? I thought the same thing until I got there, until I saw the police report. I had it in my hand the next day, and I walked them around the room, and I saw the beam and the notch where he did the deed, and I looked at the report, and according to that, he was facing south. And according to south was a door, and according to the report, the door was open. So what did this man see on the other side of that door? What no man should see in this lifetime. I don't know if there's a hell in the afterlife. As a rabbi, I'm asked this all the time. I don't know. If there is, I will report back. However, I do know there's a hell in this life, and this man created it for himself, because through that door was a mirror. This man spent his final, not so final moments in this lifetime staring at himself in a mirror. What did he see? I don't know. But I can tell you what he didn't see. He didn't see the man that I knew, didn't see the man that I loved, didn't see the man that I respected, that so many respected. He was a good man. There's nothing ordinary about that. He didn't see the true man staring back from the glass. He didn't see my dad. What do I think he saw? I think he saw the same thing that so many men in this room see on a daily basis. I have numbers, specifically dollar signs. You see, he took out the calculator of his life, he did the math, and it didn't add up. On one side was a mountain of debt, and then on the other side, a 0. Why a 0? I'm not good at math, but last I checked, 0 times anything is 0. At the end of the day, he saw 0. He saw nothing. He saw a void. And he spent his life dancing around a void. That's why it's called avoidance, a void dance. And he danced around it for 20 years, because 20 years before that, there was another number. It was his mother. She shot herself through the heart, and he found her lifeless, bloody body, and he never forgave himself. He never stopped blaming himself because he believed he deserved to die. But worse yet, he believed he was destined to be number two. She was number one, and he was number two. But number two could have saved him. Why two? Because as Robert Frost so famously wrote, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. You see, when there's one road, there's no choice. But 2 roads means we have a choice. And that's why we're here tonight, because we always have a choice. And I learned this from my other father. You see, I was blessed with 2 fathers. My biological father, Shelley Perlman, a man who I loved too much to leave hanging there. And this is my way of taking him down and doing what my other father, my spiritual father, told me to do, transform tragedy into triumph. And that's why we're here tonight. And that's why I wrote this book, because his tragedy, my tragedy, will be your triumph, or your husband's, or your father's, or your son's, or your brother's triumph. That's how we redeem the tragedy. My other father knew what he was talking about. See, I never met him, but he was my spiritual father. And he knew this in the Holocaust. The Nazis subtracted his wife and his unborn child out of existence. They murdered his parents. They murdered his brother, his family, his friends. They reduced him, his profession and his possessions to a number. I wear his number right here, prisoner 119104. But this man was never a number. He said, because on this arm, I burned on there the defiant power of the human spirit. Because within us, he wrote, Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning, father of logotherapy, and a man who said he was never a number because at the center of who he was the defiant power of the human spirit. As he wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. We have a choice. We always have a choice. And that's what we're doing here tonight. You're not here for a book launch. I duped you. You're here for a mission. It's called the 13-Minute Mission. It is a nonprofit 501c3 that you are hearing about, the world is hearing about here tonight, with one purpose. When you started your stopwatch, a man killed himself, shot himself in California. 13 minutes later, a man will jump from a building in Texas. 13 minutes after that, a man's going to die by overdose in New York. Every 13 minutes in America, a man chooses to kill himself. 80% of suicides are men. Men are minimally 4 times more likely to kill themselves than women, but in certain demographics, like 70 and up, 17 times more likely to leave this world. It is an epidemic. It is a silent epidemic. And what in our world is silent anymore except this? Well, as the old saying goes, if you can't name it, you can't tame it. Tonight we're naming it, and this is how we're going to tame it, by pushing that clock back 1 minute. That's the rest of my life. That is my passion, to push this back to 14 minutes. It might not sound like a lot to you, but think about this. That's 2,888 men this year alone who will choose to live. That's 2,888 wives who will wake up next to their husbands. Little boys and girls who will continue to hold the hand of their daddies. 2,888 mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters who won't bury their man, their husband, their son, because he will have continued to walk amongst us and laugh amongst us and live amongst us. He will have chosen life, one man, 1 minute, and one why at a time. As Viktor Frankl said, he who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. I can't tell you what all these men have in common except one thing. Some are lonely, some are broke, some are dealing with mental illness. They're all different except for they've lost their why. And when a man has his why, he has everything. But when a man loses his why, his meaning, his purpose, he has lost his way. That's what we're doing here tonight. But this is not a story of suicide. I was a rabbi. I did 500 funerals. I dealt with people as they were moving closer to death, as they were in what I call the dark Ds: divorce, depression, despair. And it's important, and we need people to respond to that. But the problem is, by the time you get there, it's often, like my dad, too late. You see, I didn't write the book I'd put in my father's hands 13 minutes before he killed himself. I wrote the book I'd put in his hands 13 years before he'd kill himself. Because the men that I know, they tend not to be ideating over suicide, but they are struggling nonetheless with meaning. The men that I know have means, but they have lost their meaning. It has drifted along the way. And I give them an assignment. Go to the mirror and see what that guy has to say. Do you know how many of them say, B, I can't, or I won't? Why? Because they have strayed from their meaning. We have a meaning crisis in America. Men are lost. We have a purpose crisis. The men that I guide, they have professional success. They've climbed the ladder of success to find out is leaning against the wrong wall. And then they come down and they don't know which direction to go. And they come to me and say, B, I'm lost. I have degrees. I have titles. I have money in the bank. Help me find my way forward. That's who I wrote this book for. The men that I guide, man, these are good men who want to become great men, but they didn't have the men, the mentors in their lives to show them the way. And so they drifted slowly over time away from the glass. And they go back to it, and they don't know that man anymore. They don't recognize him. Worse yet, they don't like him. They don't respect him. That's why I wrote this book. We have a meaning epidemic in our society, with men in particular. We have a purpose epidemic. We have a why epidemic. This is a movement, and it begins tonight. The 13 Minutes mission is a 501c3, not for profit. We are going to raise serious money for one purpose and one purpose alone. We are going to push back the clock, one man, 1 minute, one why at a time. Now, I can't do this alone. And so I've written this book to get into your hands, to get to your husbands and fathers and sons and brothers and colleagues' hands, because I do believe it is a book that will change lives. But that's not the only way we're going to do it. We are going to do it by coming together as a tribe. As Ram Dass says, we are all just walking each other home. That's the message. That's the mission. This is the tribe. Brothers and sisters, it is time to defy the clock.